Well,
Can I
do you want
start?
to start? Yeah, go for it.
God.
All right. And it involves giving a present to the podcast.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there is a bit of an elephant in the room here.
That's
so
horrible wrapping paper because
Who,
it's all at Office
who
Works.
chose that wrapping
It's
paper?
pretty cute.
It's all they had at Office Works.
Really?
This is
Yeah.
our first gift.
Great. Okay.
Well, hang on.
Am I allowed
Firstly,
to move?
are we just going to say who you are? Like, by the way,
No,
hi
no,
guys.
we'll get
Welcome
there.
to Rushing Slowly. This is Guy. We'll introduce him a little bit better after we address the elephant in the room, which
Let's
is
keep
this
them-
big, pink, huge box.
Wrapped awesomely.
Yeah, we'll keep them on their
Wrapped
toes.
awesomely.
So who should open it?
I have to hand it to you. Can I move the mic quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, hands up. Who lied in podcast 1?
Who lied?
Yeah.
What, you're pointing the finger at me?
I know. And hands up who lied also.
I guess.
I guess. Yeah, Amy.
I feel like there's a new puppy in here.
Ready?
You're a dickhead.
It's a Hawaiian pizza. Because Zoe actually
Pineapple on
loves
pizza, are you
Hawaiian
kidding? I'm
pizza.
actually starving. I haven't eaten yet. I'm
Zoe
going to eat
loves
one.
Hawaiian pizza. She lied. She said she doesn't. She always has some of mine.
Is
and
it cold?
Megzy,
Is it
I could
cold?
tell that you actually don't actually have ever tried.
Well, she doesn't seem to have a problem with the pineapple
No.
now, does she?
Seriously.
I don't mind it, but I just
And then also you was like, it was Guy's fault. Guy makes me have it sometimes. He loves it. People are messaging me, oh my
that
God,
is-
you like Hawaiian pizza? You are a sicko.
Okay, that is all true, firstly, and I am going to have a little cheeky
I'm
bite
so
of it.
hungry.
Great.
So firstly, thank you. Thank you
No
for the
worries.
elaborate wrapping. I was honestly hoping that there was going to be a little chihuahua or something in there that you were gifting me.
Did you want some
Nah.
pizza?
No, but have a little bit
Look,
of
I'll
pineapple.
take it back. I don't hate pineapple on pizza, but it is never my preference. Like if I'm ordering a pizza, that I'm not ordering it with it, but I'll eat it. Like if you order a Hawaiian, sure, I'll have a bite. I'll have a slice.
It didn't
I might even
sound
have
like
3
that
slices.
when you were hanging crap on Hawaiian pizzas in the episode where you get to know you guys. Also,
You're really showing
I
your
called
true
3 pizza joints and they all laughed and said, no, we're an Italian restaurant. So that's why I had to go to Crust.
We took it OG. All right, well, let
Cool.
me finish this mouthful and then let's take a breath.
Wait, I actually do also want to have one more bite.
That was an eventful way to start the episode. Also quite delicious and appreciate it. I'd take every word back and I'm sorry I did lie. I don't mind pineapple on pizza. Zoe?
Wait, also for anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, go back and listen to our intro episodes where we did rapid fire questions, and one of the questions was pineapple on pizza, yes or no. I answered sometimes, and Megzy answered a firm no. And Guy was upset
I
because
was a victim.
he was anyway, go back and listen. All right, should we, as we do in every episode, we'll kick off with our mindful breath.
I think we need it today.
Yeah.
Just need to ground down a little bit after all of that.
So wherever you are, eyes can be open or closed. Take a breath in, ideally through your nose, and a gentle breath out of your nose or your mouth. Now we may begin.
Before we start this episode, as a very passionate Warramungu Yari woman, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land we are recording this podcast from, and honour their ongoing connection to country, community and culture. I wouldn't be me without the sacrifices of my ancestors, and for that I pay my deepest respect and extend that respect with love to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and all elders past and present. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Hello, Guy.
Hello.
Our number one guy, actually named Guy. I am so excited to have you here today. Guy is Zoe's other half. I wasn't going to say better half, don't worry.
I don't know, it's probably true.
and really our number one fanboy. You've been our biggest supporter, and I am so grateful that you're in our corner, always sending us messages of support and kind words in our little group chat that we've just got going on. And I just think it's such a nice opportunity to have you on here, particularly because this podcast, you know, we are speaking to an audience of people that we are friends with and a lot of people that do know us. But I think sometimes we can forget with podcast land that we are speaking to, well, I don't even know who. Sometimes, you know, we've got people tuning in that we've never met before. And I think in order to get to know us a little deeper, it's important to get to know the people that are closest to us. And of course, Guy, you are one of the closest people to Zoe. So it really makes me excited to have you on here. And I think you're just a great egg and a big legend. So
Thanks, Megzy.
Well, and our second ever podcast guest.
Cool.
Just want to put that out there.
I'm happy to be here. So
and our first male guest.
yes.
yay.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's cool to be here. And of course, I love you guys so much and I'm so stoked for this. I'm happy to be here to be part of it.
So we like to start every episode by asking each other, now you, our guest, what is it at the moment that's keeping you rushing?
So being a big fan of the podcast, I was expecting this question and I've been thinking about my answer, and it is actually that I'm doing everything that I want. And I guess at the moment in life, we live busy lives. Just, you know, you guys obviously talk about it quite a lot, and I have the same hectic busyness, although it's not so business orientated as you and Zoe. We're balancing careers, timetables that don't adjust, don't line up, sorry. We've got a dog. We live an hour and a half away. We're trying to live a happy life that we want. And somehow in there, I'm managing to fit in a project car, 2 motorbike clubs, 5, 6, 7 different friendship groups, 10 different hobbies. And I happen to be doing them all. And it's just under being too much. So I'm really stoked about that. But it comes with a lot of planning and a little bit of rushing.
But I like to hear that you're doing things that are at least filling your cup in the rush, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought about thinking about the answer. I was like, oh, I'm doing too much. And then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm doing what I want. So I'm rushing to make it work for me.
Well, you mentioned something about this the other day around doing a lot and being on the edge of doing so many things, that doing a lot of things poorly as opposed to a few things well.
Yep.
Does that still fit or not?
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, because we have limited time, right? I'm a shift worker. I work 4 days on, 4 days off, which means I don't always have the weekends off. So sometimes when I do have the weekends off and I've got something planned with Zoe or this friend and that friend, it means I miss out on seeing those friends and doing that thing. And then, so I guess my answer to your question is sometimes my social connections, I don't get my full attention because of that. But it just requires a lot of work and you know, more pre-planning to make sure I don't miss out on those things.
Yeah.
I do way more than a normal person.
You are so active, I will say. I am tired sometimes just watching you do all of the things that you do, but it's like it makes me happy too, because and when I say you do the most, it's more like I love your adventurous side. I am yet to come on any Sandy the Landy trips, which I very much look forward to, and surf trips and stuff. And I know we've talked about coming down to the peninsula and spending some time together over summer and doing some surf trips and stuff. But I love your sense for adventure and that you're always out and about on a motorbike or a car doing burnouts and just being a...
I'm not doing burnouts. I can if you want.
I did see something the other day where you're like in the bush in a car and it was like doing some skis and stuff. I was like, that looks sick. Take me.
Well, so I know that there's a couple of reasons why we have you, Guy, here on the podcast. I know that, as Megzy said, it's going to be an opportunity to get to know me and sort of us a little bit. So we are going to talk a little bit about our relationship and how we got together. And of course, we're going to have different versions of that story, but we'll give it top line. But then also we want to talk to you about how you do spend your time and your unique perspective on life. And what you do for a living and some of the decisions that you've made in your life to get you to where you are. But I was thinking maybe we should just start by getting Guy to introduce himself. Like how would you introduce yourself in like a couple of sentences?
So my name's Guy. I'm 34. I'm a firefighter from Melbourne at South Melbourne Fire Station. I'm married to Zoe, who's been my best friend for about 15, 16 years. And I live a pretty values-driven lifestyle that's built around socialising and adventure.
Well, I guess there's a lot there, but I want to take it back to your comment about Zoe and you being best friends for the last 15 or so years, because I think that that's a really nice way to begin this conversation. It's obviously, like I said, a huge part of Zoe's life is the connection and the relationship that she has with you. And I know I've spoken about it before. It's a relationship that I really admire, and I've said it before, but I really am so grateful to look up to friends in yourselves that have such a healthy, normal relationship, because relationships are bloody hard, and I'm sure that you go through your fair share of battles, and in fact I know that you do. There's always going to be challenges in amongst that, but you really work as a team, and it's something that I really truly admire. And you've both got such a wonderful sense for adventure, and you've just got such a gorgeous chemistry, connection and bond. So I'm super grateful to learn about where that began, because I know that you got married during COVID and you've been together for roughly 7 years.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, I think we don't even know.
Yeah, it's always we lose track, but something like that.
And that's where I want to take it back to.
We've been married for 3.5, almost 4.
Yeah.
Take me back to the beginning. Take us back to the beginning. And this is something that I think forms such a nice part of our podcast too, about this sense of rushing, because you guys didn't really rush your relationship at all. I mean, you've been friends for a very long time beforehand.
Oh, God, no.
Tell me the love story, because I love.
So do you want me to start?
Yeah, you go.
So Guy and I met because Guy went to TAFE with one of the guys who was a part of our friendship group. Maybe, I feel like this is your part of the story. You should start.
Sure. I met a guy after high school and became best friends with his friendship group and moved into a share house with them. They're all still my best friends today. And their school girls group was Zoe's friends. So I met Zoe. She would have still been in year 12 and I would have been 2 years out of school by then. And then I think our friendship started when I had a really funny dress sense of like super tight jeans and tall tees. And there was a photo going around of Zoe fully dressing up as me, bagging the crap out of me.
No, I was not bagging you. For anyone who doesn't know what a tall tee is, it's just a really long T-shirt.
It was a horrible dress style.
And Guy's signature shoe, which is still consistent, although you are not wearing them today, is Vans, particularly the checkered style of Vans. And I used to have this brown pair of like lace-up Vans back when that was the look. And I was at a friend's house, holiday house, with a bunch of my girlfriends. And for whatever reason, I must have been wearing something that slightly emulated Guy's dress sense, and so I just really amplified it. And I did. I did take some photos, and they did get back to you.
Had you been
too much time spent on
by
this
this
story.
point?
No. We just met.
Okay.
And anyway,
no, we were friends.
we became friends, and I hung out with our friendship groups, hang out together. We did a lot of stuff together, and I guess over the next, however many years, we all went to music festivals together. We all went traveling overseas together. We all had share houses. Me and Zoe were neighbours. We all worked at funny, the uni part-time jobs together and went to parties. And throughout that time, me and Zoe were just really, really close. We had different partners. We wingmanned or wingwomaned each other like across the globe. We looked after each other in, all across Europe and Asia and all different parties, festivals in Melbourne, whatever. We even once, as neighbours, matched each other on Tinder, and we would laugh like, lol, as if that's going to happen. And then, I guess I actually thought of this yesterday. It was quite funny.
Oh, no.
So right before me and Zoe got together, or we first had our hookup, we were both single, newly single, and I remember writing a list of all the things I wanted in a wife, and there was like 10 things, and Zoe ticked off 9 of the things. Do you remember the one thing you didn't tick off?
Yes.
What was it?
That I'm not Korean.
Yeah, so
Far from.
anyway, 9 out of 10's not bad.
Yeah, you think you did all right there, mate.
So weird thing for me to write down. Anyway, we're one Christmas, Zoe invited me to her family's holiday house in Blairgowrie, which wasn't unusual, and I went down there with her and her 3 brothers, and I can't remember if their partners at the time were there. I think it was just me and Zoe and her 3 brothers went out. Was it Boxing Day?
I think it might have been.
No, it was Boxing Day.
Boxing Day, yeah. We went to the Sorrento Hotel.
Yeah, anyway, we got totally lit and came home. And yeah, we hooked up at the pub, I think.
Yeah,
Little disco pashes.
Yeah, because I think we were just there with Christian. I don't know if the other boys were there. Christian and Rachel were there. Yeah, my oldest brother and his partner. And yeah, I remember we were all at the pub getting absolutely wasted, as you do in your mid-20s. And
Josh and Adzi were there because we were
were
at
they?
the Conti. We went underground at the Conti, and
was it?
We went back and we're drinking.
No, but I remember that it was during the day, and Christian and Rachel would go to the bar, and then we like hooked up while they were at the bar, and it was like broad daylight, and I was like, "What the hell just happened?"
Anyway,
Was it weird hooking up with each other for the first time after being friends for so long?
Oh, doll, we were so drunk at that point.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think that was even a
thing.
And yeah, no. After the fact, we didn't talk about it
Yeah, okay.
for a bit.
yeah,
But yeah,
and
the
it was
story
it
goes-
was pretty funny. I can remember in the morning waking up and Zoe's dad opened the door. Was like, "What are you doing in here? Fucking hell!" And then straight after, Zoe's older brother, "Oh my god, what are you doing in there?" I was like, "Oh, what am I doing in here?" Anyway, we just business as usual, friendship, but a few hookups started happening as the hookups increased. The sobriety decreased.
No, increased.
Oh yeah, wait, sorry, yeah. The sobriety increased as at the same time the hookups increased. They got to a point where it was like, oh, we're not like hooking up out, we're like hooking up after going on a date.
Now all of a sudden we're married.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like it was actually quite a slow progress. Like when I say we only hooked up drunk, like we've really only hooked up when we were like absolutely wasted, and then we wouldn't talk about it when we were sober. It was kind of this like unspoken thing for a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
And then there was just more and more social events where then someone would see us kissing or something, and then it started to become like a little whisper through the group, and then eventually it was like, we'd only had one drink and then we'd hook up. And then I remember it was Valentine's Day. We should figure out what year it was because that'll probably tell us how long we've been together. But I was living with a few girlfriends in South Yarra, and you had asked if I wanted to go for a run with you around the town. And in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, whatever. We always go for runs together, like as mates. That's no big deal. And my girlfriends were like, it's Valentine's Day. Like this is a date. I'm like, no, it's not. And then I got to the tan track and Guy had bought me this little cactus with a little red ribbon on it and said Happy Valentine's
cute.
Day. It was so
Guys.
cute. And we went for that run, and I remember thinking like, this is a bit weird. Like what is happening here? And then I think that night was the first night that we hooked up completely sober. Because I actually think you stayed over that night.
Maybe.
Yeah.
In
Anyway.
that time from our first hookup until like this time, like I think my attendance rate at One Hot Yoga where Zoe was managing and teaching was incredible.
roof.
Yeah, seriously. And
This is so cute.
and then most flexible I've ever been. And
That would have
then
been fun for you, Zoe.
and then yeah, it got to a weekend. Zoe was going to pitch. I had a friend's wedding, and we both were like, so you're not going to hook up with anyone this weekend? Nah, you. And it was just kind of on from there. And then I reckon it was maybe like within the next 6 months, I got my first Zoga tattoo.
Oh my
Well,
God.
you do have a lot of tattoos.
I got a
You're one of the
tattoo that
most
says
tatted
Zoga,
humans I
and that was
know.
a coming home gift from Germany.
Yeah, that's right. I went over to Germany for maybe like a month or even a little bit longer to do some yoga training and do a little bit of traveling. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I fully forgot.
And I was like, I'm all in.
I got home and Guy had tattooed Zoga, which, keeping in mind, is not my name. But we really.
That was my name for you.
No, I know.
Still
and
is.
it
I've
still
adopted
is.
it from you. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
for
but
me,
it's
also your nickname.
I'm glad that nickname had, because I think at that time, like, I don't think that nickname had been around for that long. So I'm really glad that
No, you liked
that's
it.
still a thing. I still love it.
And
I
then-
have some questions, guys.
Yes.
Can I interject here?
Of course.
The first one is I want to go back to the list thing. You writing the list about your ideal qualities in a wife. I want to know why did you feel inclined to write that list? What had you gone through, or where were you at in order to kind of feel that were you actively kind of looking to become in a relationship? And what was on the list?
I think it was. I was about. God, I would have been like 25. It was a real turning point in my life, I guess, where I wanted to be more value-based driven with my decisions. I'd gone through that early 20s of traveling and learning who I was and a couple of relationships, and I think I was just, doing weird guy stuff, making lists of what I want.
But I love that.
I've always made like goal lists, lists of things I want to achieve every year, New Year's resolutions, if you call them that. And that was just, I don't know, I don't think there was anything specific, but it was just something I did in the moment. I also thought, based off a few things that some of you and your girlfriends have said, that it was my Saturn's return.
Oh,
Which was I know woo-woo stuff. But also
Big flex.
it was at the same time that, like, I changed jobs, I changed interests. So maybe it was all just part of that at the same time.
and I mean that obviously forms a big part of who you are, is that reflective piece. Being able to sit there and sort of psychoanalyze yourself and who you are, who you want to be, and in turn who you would like to attract as a partner. I think that's such a really wonderful and valuable tool to explore.
I can't remember, like, obviously we were friends at that point when you wrote that list, and I feel like manifesting was like definitely something that I would have been talking about and like learning about at that phase in my life. So I wonder if there was some like trickle around this idea of manifesting. And
Maybe I also don't think there should be too much importance on the list. It was just hilarious that you ticked them all except for being Korean. And,
What were the other 9 things? Do you remember?
family values, motivated for success, independent,
Hot.
spiritual, smoking hot, all that type of stuff. Yeah, I can't recall, but
I feel like I've really bought into this story now. So you start hooking up, you're hooking up outside of the environment of going out and getting litty. You're starting to spend a lot more time together. You go to pitch, you go somewhere, you make this decision to not go anywhere else, and then is the rest history from there?
I think so, yeah. I think from that point, that was Labor Day long weekend, and I think we call that our like the beginning of the relationship. But I think actually it really had started at Boxing Day in the year prior, or the months prior rather. But I remember that from my perspective, I was a little hesitant, like this idea of transitioning from friendship to relationship. Like it wasn't totally seamless and smooth. Like I had real hesitations around ruining such an important friendship. I was like, what if this doesn't work out? What if this is not right? What if this is, going to be detrimental to our friendship? And
where I'm thinking jackpot.
yeah.
The only person that was happier than me was my mum. She's like, about time.
Yeah. And likewise my family, they were like, you guys are only just catching up to this. We've all been talking about this for years. But yeah, I do remember having my own hesitations and based off previous relationships and things, I just was a bit like, oh, we've got such a good thing going. Like, what if this goes pear-shaped? But I think I think what I recognized was that actually we'd already gone too far for that point. I was like, we whether I like it or not, we're already in a relationship actually. And so, I may as well be all in. And thank God, because I love you so much.
Ditto.
Yeah, but also I do remember there being like some, even the dynamic of our friendship group, because it's like we went from just being two mates as a part of this big group to then all of a sudden being a couple. And yeah, I remember it being like a little bit clunky at times, and sometimes like talking to each other like we're, just like chipper pals, and then being like, oh wait, no, like you're my boyfriend now. I can like hold your hand and like, and that stuff was a little bit.
It was funny navigating that change.
Yeah.
Because it was such like shit giving, shit stirring into like, transitioning to romantic. Yeah, it wasn't just all like the straight into it. It was, which is also a
nice.
huge benefit. Like even now, like some of the ways we interact, like these ways that best friends talk to each other.
And that's what I was just about to say. I think it's so nice sometimes. I mean, when we're living in a world where it is so much about the rush and like, I think I've talked a little bit about it before in previous relationships, but I've certainly entered into previous relationships in the past feeling the pressure of the societal, needing to kind of tick the box of like get into the relationship, then build enough of a relationship to feel comfortable to explore the conversation around having kids and then buying a house and and rushing that. When in fact your journey has been so slow and you've really built this foundation of friendship first. And that is what is such a key ingredient, I feel, in a healthy relationship is friendship. You have to be on each other's team. You've got to be mates. And when you've been able to, and that speaks volumes to who you are and where you're at now as a beautiful couple, 7 years down the track and a few years married now. And, like we said, there's no doubt there's little road bumps along the way. Like any relationship, they're important to have road bumps because they help you grow and evolve. But I think that underlying idea of, just take the pressure off and don't feel like you need to rush things. And especially when society's, in your ear saying, keep going, keep pushing forward. Because in actual fact, the more that you just go with the flow, well, I suppose in your case, the happier you guys seem.
But we did, we did have the privilege of time, right? Like how old was I when we, maybe like let's say 25 and 27 or something-ish, you have so much time. You do have so much time then.
Yeah, when you just said all that, we really did, didn't we? Like there was we bought a house when it was perfectly right. We didn't really actually feel pressure or need to. We built so many traveling adventures and we backed each other with career changes and studying and because it's just what we did. And that comes from God, 6, 10. We really should write down the numbers so we say the same number every time. It comes from that history of just being best mates. Even now, it's unique that some days or some weeks rather, I won't see Zoe for one day of the week. So I work 2 day shifts in the city and then I work 2 night shifts. And often between those day shifts, I'll stay at my parents' house in the city. And then if I come home after my second day, and just because I use it to socialize with friends or to save the hour and a half drive each way, but if I come home the next night and Zoe's working or away, then I might have the next day to myself. Then I go to night shift. Just by chance, we might not see each other for 5 or 6 days. And we talk all the time, but we're not really one of these couples that FaceTime 5 times a day. But it just works so well. And we catch up and we've got so much to share. And I've got a lot of mates that are like, how do you do it? And I'm like, it's just what we always have done and it works really well for us. And yes, it sucks sometimes because I'll spend every minute ever next to Zoe if I can. But that's just not the reality. And every minute we do spend is just awesome. And there's so much to share. And things will change because, we're trying to look for a different place to live. Who knows where I might get stationed with the fire brigade? Like I can get sent to another station, kind of almost within 2 weeks' notice. Really, who knows? But it's just has worked so well, hasn't it?
Well, and I think that we kind of set those conditions right from the beginning. I think when we did decide to go all in with each other, we both had so many like kind of dreams and goals. And like I did so much travel without you in the front half of our relationship. But, and likewise, you did so many adventures and career change and so many different things. But I think because we had that base of friendship, it was like as if I'm ever going to hold you back from doing the things that you want. And I think that level of like independence between us is what makes us so strong. But of course, everything comes with a cost as well, because it can be so like likewise to you. If I had it my way, like he would never leave my side. But to your point, you know, I think that is one of our strengths, because when we do come together, there's so much to talk about and there's always things to be catching up on, and kind of keeps us on our toes a little bit. We often don't get complacent, because when we are together, it's like, oh, we better make the most of this time. God, it sounds like we were living like a long distance relationship or something, but it does feel like that.
I feel like there have been so many times over the last couple of years where you've both been so separated because you've been here and you've been there, but I guess that brings in that element of real trust in each other as well, and just this chill. Like you've got a really nice chilled energy in your relationship. There's never any.
Well, it's pretty, like if Zoe comes home and goes, oh my God, Nike's taking us to Magnetic Island for 5 days. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. When are you going? That must feel as good for her as it does for me when I'm at work and someone goes, hey, we're going to go away for our 4 days off motorbike riding. And I say, yep, cool, I'm in. And they're like, don't you have to call and ask your wife? I'm like, nah. I should be good. But like
I'm sweet.
But like it doesn't happen too regularly. That happened one recently, and someone's like, oh my God. It's it's pretty interesting. It's unique, but at the same time it's something that we want to do that. It's just how it is, because we've been friends for so long, and more than double that is the amount of times that we do stuff together.
Yeah.
It's not like we're always apart.
Yeah.
And nothing comes before going away or doing something with Zoe.
Yeah.
And it sounds like there's a real good level of like understanding, communication, you know, all the right ingredients to make a healthy relationship thrive and flourish. I want to ask about core values, because it's been something that you've both mentioned a lot in this conversation, and core values are a big part of the way that we steer our lives, you know, living in alignment with your core values. What would you say are your core values as a couple?
Whoa, that's such a good question.
Oh, I know my values so well because Zoe taught me about values early. And we have a few that overlap. I think we had actually a chat the other day and we laughed. I'm like, hey, what are yours again? Because I feel like they've changed. She goes, and you? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, these ones are the new ones.
Yeah, we did. We did have a chat the other day, because, you know, and this is true for all relationships, that people are still independent and our values do change. Our values are never fixed. And I feel like since the beginning of our relationship, my values have actually changed a lot, not for better or worse, and not all of them. But we did sort of regroup on that a little bit around, let's make sure that we're still on the same page with really honouring each other's values, and like making sure that, because we're making some bigger decisions at the moment, as I mentioned and I've mentioned in a previous episode, around where we're going to live and what that's going to look like, and, you know, the potential of starting a family one day and how we want to navigate that. And I don't think we've necessarily landed on a sense of clarity within that, but there's, you know, in my mind at least, still a spaciousness to be just kind of considerate of values and how they will evolve both separately and together. So I actually don't have an answer to that question.
I think when I talk about my own values, I always try and cut it down for some reason to 3, but you can have unlimited, and I think there's lots of crossover with us. But most like
what are yours?
My number one value is positivity, and I get that definitely from my mum. Anything can be great if I go into it with positivity. My next one is more value, maybe it's more of an ethos, and I got it from my dad, and it's putting effort into everything you do. His was essentially, that's my version of his, which is hard work. And, you know, if we get invited to a party and it's a dress up party, like I'm putting in the effort.
You are all
That's why Guy showed up with a pizza in a giant box wrapped with unicorn wrapping paper today.
And then the other two are adventure and creativity, and they kind of have morphed into one since a good friend of mine put a camera in my hand and taught me how to use it when I go away on my adventures. So, and if I try and do everything with a touch of that,
which I feel like you
to
do
work.
as an observer. I feel like those three, four, if you combine the adventure and the creativity, they speak to you as a person so much. And I can imagine if you would really feel when you're not living in alignment with your values, because all those things that you've mentioned are how I would identify you, how I would explain you if somebody was to say, how would you explain Guy? They are the things that I would say to describe you. So I think that that's really interesting that you've outlined those as your values. And to me, it goes to show that you're very much living in alignment with them. And, you know, goodness, talking about core values and values is an episode in itself, but I think it's an important thing to talk about while we are on the topic of a relationship, because if your values don't align, then usually what I've experienced in my own personal relationships and just what I've seen from people that I'm close to, when your values don't align, you're usually navigating some pretty murky water.
well, Zoe, you always said freedom, and
Correct.
you had your unique a unique take on freedom, more around your work lifestyle, but it also meant for us to be free by supporting each other, so you never felt scared to ask for the trip or the boys' weekend or whatever, and free to, you know, we work together to make smart decisions so that we have time or financial freedom to do whatever we want, and we're really lucky that we've worked hard to be able to do that. And so, like, you know, she says freedom, and that she said freedom, and that's helped both of us. Positivity, that's helped both of us. Like you bounce off each other, and we're not as much as we are independent sometimes, we're not I wouldn't say at all too independent, you know what I mean? Because
You need each other.
we know each other so well, we vibe off each other, and every decision I make, I have Zoe at top of mind. I know it's vice versa, and that's just because of living so close together for so long.
And also our shared calendar.
Oh my God, iCal.
Highly recommend.
Tell everyone to get a shared iCal.
What did you say was in your calendar? We were talking about this yesterday, and you were like, I can see what's in your calendar. Like you're going to get a lasagna or something.
It was coming on this podcast. We were asking you yesterday if you wanted to come on the podcast, and you were like, oh, no, I can't tomorrow. That's absolutely not an option. And I looked on your calendar and it said, pick up lasagna.
Which, by the way, where is mine?
It's in my car because
did you
I
bring me
then
one?
picked up the lasagna to make sure that he could come on the podcast.
This is a shout out to my
Teamwork.
mum. I told a guy at work my mum's lasagna is like so bloody awesome. And he's like, all right. And then on the spot I called her. I'm like, Mum, I can't chat right now. I totally could. I'm like, I need a lasagna. And she's like, I'll make one for you. Can you come and pick it up on Tuesday? I'm like, yeah. And so I actually picked it up.
I did pick it up.
That's good teamwork. But I do want to say, just before we round out on the relationship chat, that I think, again, it's very important. And just to go back to, you know, what I've picked up from, I'm sure there's multiple other things that help to make your relationship thrive and the success that it is. But the fact that you even carve out time to sit down and have a conversation like that about are our core values, what are they still? Have they changed? Are they still? They're the kind of conversations I feel that should be constantly being had, making sure you're sitting down, carving out space for those conversations to continue ensuring that you're on the same path. And I think that's a really great tool that all couples can take away.
Well, here's a hot tip for you, or for anyone listening that wants to have those check-ins. Just go for a walk without your phones.
Yeah.
Or for us, it's surfing. I'm a horrible surfer. Zoe's good, but we surf small waves on long boards, but it means most of the time we're sitting in calm water, not a phone or screen to be seen, and you're both feeling great. And we nut out anything out there or walking, you just need that to create that time, don't you?
Yeah. So we could bang on about this for ages, but I think that there's a huge portion of this conversation that is very much along the theme of values, and it's around your career. And I guess your decision to join the fire brigade and you know what you were doing before that. So yeah, tell us what life was like before you joined the fire brigade and what kind of drove your choice to make that lifestyle change, and yeah, what your life is like now.
Okay, well, I studied engineering at RMIT and thought that's where I kind of wanted to head. And I did some traveling after uni finished. And one of my great mates worked at Red Bull as a student branch manager, which is like a rep for the uni that, you know, they do all the seeding into all the groups and clubs and stuff. And I came back and I started doing more study. And I'm like, I'm going to try and get a job with Red Bull, like what my mate Bomber did. And I loved it. I was in the field marketing team and I'd never really had my eyes open to like a corporate environment like that down in Port Melbourne. And I just applied for a full-time job at the end of that year, and I got a job in the on-premise team. So anywhere where you drink the can on the site, mainly events and nightclubs and bars in Melbourne. And it was awesome. And it was a fun environment. You know, I was in my early 20s. We were going out. I had a really great group of workmates, and our work was going out, going to events. You know, as a 23-year-old, when you've got a bunch of your customers that are mates as well at music festivals with bucket load of drink cards, like how good's life?
Sick.
And I really wanted to work my way up the chain at Red Bull, and I missed an opportunity to go up to Sydney, and there wasn't too much else that I wanted to do in the area after the 4 years. And it was a hard job. Not really suited to me. It was, you know, there was a lot of, you know, the sales side and marketing side. I wasn't that great at, but I did love the job. But I couldn't see a future, and so I'm training at my cousin's CrossFit gym in Port Melbourne. He's also a firefighter, and I just said to him, "Oh, I've had enough of the job. I don't know what I want to do." And also my mum was in the fire brigade for 20 years. She's just recently retired. And he said, "You've always talked about it, the fire brigade, with me and your mum. Like, why don't you come to the station tonight and check it out?" I'm like, okay, cool. So I went down to the fire station and I met the crew, and Bjorn was the youngest fire. That's my cousin. He was the youngest firey there, the junior boy. Showed me around, and you know, I spent the whole night there and just saw how his crew worked and the dynamic. And I was like, whoa, so like you guys are all like best mates. You're going on these fire trucks to, you know, all these emergency situations. You come back and you've made a difference. Everyone's like reeks of fulfillment, and there's a team camaraderie there that I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I want to join. I quit Red Bull the next day, and the fire brigade application process is long and tedious. And it took me about 8 months to get through every stage. I did each stage I passed each stage successfully, but it takes so long for them to do the 10 to 12 different stages. So throughout that 8 months, I spent a lot of time going to fire stations through connections from Bjorn or my mum, learning about all the different elements of it and trying to understand what exactly I'm applying for. And every time I left somebody or a fire station, I was like, oh my God, that sounds so good. And I got on a recruit course at the end of 2018, and what was it? Like a year later, me and Bjorn were driving the 2 fire trucks at South Melbourne Station to a call together. And I looked over at him when we were at the job, and I'm like, whoa, this is pretty cool. How's this? Like his awesome core crew is now my like, you know, family. It's almost like a family, these crewmates that you have. And yeah, it's just, that's how I became a firefighter. I'm still there now. I'm at South Melbourne. 7 years has passed, or 6 years has passed, and I'm one of the, you know, the 4 leading firefighters there, with a whole different crew and the same values of that station and that crew in the same 4 walls, different people, but just having the best time ever.
Well, and I got to witness the transition between corporate life at Red Bull, although can we call it corporate? There was a lot of drink cards.
Yeah, it wasn't that corporate, but it was corporate for me.
Yeah. I got to witness that transition because we were together during that time when you applied and spent so much time studying and dedicated to that process of getting in. It was unbelievable. I could not believe how much time and energy is required to get in, and rightfully so, right? There's a lot of responsibility on the fire brigade and firefighters. And then I got to see you in this new role, which, to be fair, requires, you know, a different time, like shift work, right? Which is different to most of our friends. We don't really have many other friends who work shift work. But the payoff of that is the lifestyle that you get to live, which, to your point, Megzy, like, Guy is so aligned with what he values. And I think that decision to join the fire brigade, and maybe it was conscious, it sounds like it was a little bit, in recognising the camaraderie at the station and kind of making a difference and feeling fulfilled. But how do you look back on that decision and kind of feel about it? What would life have been like if you hadn't have made that decision?
Oh, I've never once looked back and thought about it. There was a lot of times where I've looked back on different aspects, like for 20 years or for 15 years before I thought about the job, at home there'd always be firefighters and their families over because they were friends with my mum. There were the social groups that they had, the nights out, the sporting events. You know, my mum and dad went with a whole crew from Melbourne to the World Police and Firefighter Games, like all that stuff. When I look back on it, I'm like, oh, how did I not realize I can be doing this stuff sooner? You do have a lot of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays off, which, all my mates, you know, they're working the 9 to 5 job, or the 8 to 6, as I hear you say on the podcast. So they're working that. And so I'm like, oh, cool. What am I going to do? Oh, I've got a bunch of guys I play golf with from the fire brigade. I've got a bunch of guys I surf with. I've got a bunch of guys I motorbike ride with. There's
lots of community.
It's a huge
belonging.
community, yeah. So, yeah, in hindsight, I realized how perfectly it was made for me. But, you know, I had a really great life leading up into that. Everything got me to where I'm supposed to be. So, it was, you know, and it was around that same time that you and me started getting together. And, you know, I started going from wanting to go out all the time to, you know, I bought a bike, I was cycling, we were doing triathlons, we were doing running and like just different interests, going away camping, rather than saying everyone we're going away camping and going to a music festival for 3 days.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who's listened to the Sober Curious episode, I spoke a lot about that time in my life where I stopped drinking and Guy stopped drinking. We both stopped drinking together. And that was around that same time that you got into the fire brigade. I was sort of transitioning into a full-time yoga career. We, you know, our relationship was pretty fresh. And I feel like this idea of value-based living was like so in our face during that time. We were making all of these decisions that were just based on what we wanted and how we wanted to live our life during that time.
We did a lot of really great self-work through those years.
Like it.
I don't think by consciously, no. It was just kind of what our friends were doing. Everyone was getting different jobs or trying alternative things, and a lot of people were challenging themselves with physical stuff and you know, the amount of, I don't want to say self-help books, but just really great stuff that our friends were talking about all the time was just awesome for you, me, all of them. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, I think all that sort of work, it's so important if you value and care about showing up in the world as the best possible version of yourself. I mean, I guess that's why this podcast exists, because we're forever trying to challenge ourselves to be more conscious, be more present, be able to be the best version of ourselves. And so nice for the both of you to have come into this path or have found each other at that time where you were both exploring those things at the same time, because it's a commonality that you can connect over, and it makes it so much more enjoyable when you can do those things and explore those things together. And I think, the more people that are invested in themselves and growing and evolving and challenging themselves to be better, you're better off for it. So really cool that you guys have been on that journey together and worked so hard at being such a great team along the way. Obviously your work, Guy, is, you love it so much. It's very passion fueled, and it sounds like you're probably going to be doing it for a long time to come, which is so epic to be in a place that is driven from this just genuine sense of like something that really lights a fire in your belly. But
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. Oh, true.
Good one.
Sorry, couldn't help myself.
You obviously don't you don't have a job that is, easy breezy, though sometimes you have to deal with very high pressure environments. You're literally, sometimes people's lives and livelihoods are in your hands as a firefighter, which I imagine must come with a massive mental load and pressure.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that?
We're lucky in the fire brigade in Melbourne across the state, FRV, Fire Rescue Victoria, we have such high quality emphasis on your well-being, physical and mental. We've got so many programs in place, and you learn it from the first couple of weeks of your recruit course. Even your first 4 days of your recruit course, you do a camp, a team bonding camp. You go to a facility, they're out in the countryside, and the whole emphasis is you aren't competition anymore, you're a team. So you need to get to know each other and know how to help each other. And then through your course, it's sprinkled amongst the operational firefighter skills and training. There's our mental health wellness sessions. There's all the information on all the available resources that we have as firefighters. But you're harnessing this great group who you can be friends with for literally the rest of your life. And there's a lot of emphasis on fire is helping each other. So it's kind of at top of mind, and there's always conversations about how to deal with that tricky job, because I might go I might go through that door with you and we have a complete different perspective or reaction to what's behind the door. And so it's about, we all make sure we watch out for our friends, watch for changes in behavior, and we make it really
a real safe environment.
We make it common practice to talk about, how we feel, so that people don't feel scared to talk about how they feel. There's a program that I'm actually a part of, which is peer support. And so you do a course on how to become a peer support officer. You learn all about our resources in more depth. And basically your job is to be more of a conduit between a fiery that wants to chat about how they're feeling and our professional resources like chaplain, counselling, in-house psychiatrists, psychologists, EAP, just to name a few. And there's similar people in similar roles for the physical side of things. So there's so many resources for fireys, and there's so many people put into help everyone. It's so good seeing the amount of people that, I'll chat to and they're like, oh no, it's all good. You don't need to tell me, I'm already over it. And so, yeah, there's so much great work from so many fireys into this program and all of our other programs that are a part of that. So from a work perspective, that's how a lot of people, I guess, deal with it.
Can I ask a question? So men's mental health it's no secret to anyone in the world that, you know, it is very commonly known that men's mental health is a problem, and it has changed a lot over the years. And like you said about destigmatizing it and just making it okay to not be okay and to talk about things. Have you noticed outside of work, like obviously you're resourced with all these great tools within the Fireys, do you take that to the real world in terms of outside of work and notice within your peer and friendship groups that you're, you know, recognizing possible signs or patterns in your mates or men around you that they might be presenting not feeling very well, or they might not be okay? And do you use those tools that you're resourced with through work to have these conversations outside of that environment?
Totally. The skills are really transferable, and I'm really grateful that I've learned them through work. They're the best way that I personally think to handle something like that is just to be really lead by example. I'm really open about talking about mental health, open that I've seen a therapist before, seen a psychologist before, and I have this self-care practice that I follow because I'm aware of how it might affect me. And I might talk to someone who's in another industry, who's a friend, whether they show signs of distress or not, to try and dispel that stigma. Because I don't know, I think me and Zoe both are pretty good at being totally open with who we are to help other people be who they are. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm actually really lucky that a lot of my mates are really progressive with this stuff. And I first saw a therapist because one of my mates who I never thought would ever really see a therapist told me how much it was helping him. And, you know, he told me pretty openly, and I think that's a good testament to just a really great friendship and openness. So I'm really lucky where some friends I've like suggested it a bit more like, hey, have you ever thought about this? You should. Again, because I feel comfortable saying that to them. And if they want to or don't want to, I'll help them. And if they don't want the help, I'll, you know, just wait till they're ready. But I'm really lucky where a lot of my friends are quite already all over.
Well, I also remember when you, and I think it might have been Aston, after you'd done a mental health first aid training, you guys hosted like a little workshop for all of the boys.
Oh, we did actually. That was great. My great friend Aston, who's really
That's a cool name.
He's a cool guy. He's really into his mental health as well. And he worked at a space below Revolver. It's a really awesome share workspace. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, co-working.
Co-working place, lots of plants and art. And we got all of our mates and we had a mental health seminar. I don't know, you weren't there. It was just for the dudes, and it was built off some stuff that he'd learned through his work, and I got one of the field peer coordinators from my work to help me basically create something from all of our stuff that was tailored to just a bunch of 30-year-old guys. And it was as simple as things like the definition and signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety and what to do and resources available. And it was actually incredible. A few guys really shared stories and stuff that nobody knew, and everyone got around each other, and it was cool. Yeah, it was really cool. I don't know how many other people, like groups, do that. It was pretty intimidating actually in front of all your closest mates, but talking about that type of stuff.
Well, you do such a good job at leading by example, I think. And I know that you're often the one who someone would call when they're having a hard time, right? Because you're so good at not just kind of holding things with that positive attitude that you mentioned, but you're also really good at just, you know, being vulnerable yourself and therefore like opening space for other people to feel safe in their own vulnerability.
Well,
Thanks.
Isn't it true, like we always say, the more that you are able to be open and express, the more it encourages other people to be open and express and explore their own vulnerability as well. And actually something that you speaking about that just reminded me of conversation. I think, again, I'm going to reference Hugh Van Cuylenberg. Maybe it was there on his podcast or something like that, but they talked about, they used the Richmond Football Club as an example of when they went through that real period of like their success leading into those 3 premierships that they won back to back over those years. They did a lot of work with Emma Murray and I think Ben Crow and the Resilience Project, and a big part of what they were focusing on, and I've actually used this in some of my workshops that I do, is getting people in the room to share and open the forum to talk about like your hero, your hardship, and I can't remember what the other thing is, but your highlight. And
I love that.
It's just such a nice way to break down the barrier, and you just build this bond with people when they are exposed to your vulnerability, you're sharing your vulnerability, and immediately feel connected. What a beautiful thing that you and your mates did. I think they're more, not even just men, everyone, the more people that are open to having those kind of experiences and conversations, the healthier the minds of the people in this world would be.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk more with you about that off the podcast. I'd like to use that.
Well, Guy will often, what do you say? You go 2 happy and a crappy.
No, 2 tops and a flop. But I like that one.
2 tops and a flop.
Well, I think that's a good way to catch up with friends. I got a couple of friends I say 2 tops and a flop, and it's just like, dude, my top this week, I just, finally got on top of this. I nailed this, and the flop, damn, I was so close to getting that. It's a good way to catch up.
We should integrate that into the pod.
2 tops and a flop.
2 tops and a flop.
That's mine. You can have 2 happies and a crappy.
Ah.
But it's also like I find being vulnerable and not being afraid what people think about you can be really great for both the mental health space, but just being you. I've got a great bunch of mates. We all ride postie bikes around. And everyone that's in that group we're just so happy to have such a ball doing. We do the stupidest stuff and it's the most fun ever. And it's because none of us care what anyone else thinks. Like we cop crap from so many people, but it's so good because the people that I feel some of the people that give us crap, they're just a bit too worried what other people may think if they jump on a postie bike and drive out to a bakery that sells award-winning scones in some little town. Oh, what's everyone going to think? But we go out there and we have the best time. You have to just lead by example of not caring what other people think. And if you are vulnerable, if you have so much fun and you can be you, but you can also show people that it's okay to look at, talk about mental health, look after your mental health.
Well, to just be human. To be human is to be vulnerable, because sometimes the world is fucking hard and, we are all going to go through different experiences that challenge us, and on the flip side that lift us up. But in order to feel those things, and you need to have an element of vulnerability. And I love having a conversation with somebody like you who presents as you are such a man. You're such a strong man, legend, human, but you're soft and you're gentle and like all of the tats and the tough exterior. But no, deep down you're just a real soft, gooey legend, and it's really nice to see that a man with this masculine exterior can have such a beautiful relationship with this soft and gentle side too.
Oh, thanks.
The final thing I think is probably important for you to share, because obviously you've spoken about all of these great resources that come within the Fire Brigade, the organisation, but I know that you personally have resources that are so helpful for you in navigating the highs and lows of your work, but also just the highs and lows of life and your own mental health. So can you talk a little bit more specifically about what those sort of more personal things that you do that are related to your self-care?
There's a really helpful self-care model that we use called SEEDS, which is sleep, exercise, education, diet, and socializing. And I think that's applicable to everybody. And we really emphasize self-care, the analogy of the plane putting oxygen on yourself before others, so that looking after yourself so you can help others. But yeah, we're out of those. I really focus on the exercise, one of those, the socializing one of those, and the education one of those. So obviously exercise speaks for itself. We're very active, I guess. I try and look after myself with as much exercise as possible. The education, it talks about learning a new skill, mastery, figuring out, having a hobby which creates time and space for you to use your brain to learn something new. It might be a language, it might be a new skill or a hobby or something. So I really focus on that. And then the last S is socializing. So I think that's super incredible. And I know you are just the same as me. Nothing makes us feel better than coming back from a day or a night out with our friends and catching up with people. I get a lot of that out of work. Zoe works solo in her office, and I know that your night and day when you come back from a catch up with your girlfriend. So I follow those three pretty intensely. So yeah, exercise, education, and socializing.
The socializing one's massive, I think, because it's like that human connection. I'm the same. I derive so much joy from being around the people that I love the most, like my mates. Like I value that so high.
Huge, isn't it?
Massive.
I'd almost say socializing is a core value of ours.
Yeah. Well, mine's fun.
Yeah.
Fun is one of my core values, and that falls under it.
I feel like that's one of yours as well, fun. Like that really encompasses you as well. You really prioritize having fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to just say a massive thank you to both of you for sharing. I think it's so nice to get such a deep insight into the inner workings of your relationship, and it's always nice. It's nice for people to learn about what makes a healthy relationship tick. And you guys obviously work hard at it. Like, you know, relationships don't just work; you have to actively pour time into it. Like that analogy you used a little while ago in a previous episode about the CEOs, true CEOs building a life together or a business together or whatever, you know. I think that, it's been really beautiful to have your insights, and just the cuteness overloads were a bit much for my little heart over here. But
Can I just say, I think that Zoe and I also come from, we've got great role models in terms of what a marriage should look like. Of our parents both worked together. I'll speak for my parents. Like my parents both, my mum was a firefighter as well, so she had the same shift struggles. My dad had his own business and he worked very hard at that. They had 3 kids. Sometimes I'm like, they're chalk and cheese, but most of the time they're so made for each other. But they're the same whether it's a time where they're meant to be, where they're the same, where it's a time where they're on the same wavelength or not. You know, they work together so well, and if someone's got to pick up the slack for the other, it was so prevalent with me growing up. Like, you know, if mum was at night shift, dad's making dinner. And, you know, if dad's away with his mates, mum's doing all the running around. Like, it was just a teamwork. And I know you had that as well, Zoe.
Yeah.
And I guess we have such good role models in that sense that it just is kind of what we know, which we're really lucky to have that.
Yeah, very, very lucky. Very
teamwork
lucky.
makes the dreams work. Now,
Yeah.
before we say goodbye, I know, Zoe, you've got to rush out of here. The irony.
Gotta wrap this shit up.
What's helping you to slow down in this very moment, Mr. Gay?
I've got a great answer for this. My best mate, Nath, he would always write me a little hot tip on a bit of paper and give it to me. And one of the ones that he wrote was, if you want to make time slow down, you have to learn a new hobby or a skill, because you start off not knowing anything, not good at it, and it feels like it goes forever. So I've started playing golf, and I always didn't like golf.
Unbelievable.
And now I love it, and I'm crap at it, but I'm out there taking 3 times as long as I should to get that bloody ball in the hole. I'm walking around in nature, I'm with friends. So I'm ticking off, like, you know, a couple of really great things for self-care. But because I'm crap at it, it seems like the day takes forever. So that's helping me slow down.
I love that. Golf. We should take up some golf.
Yeah, I think I need golf.
I need some golf in my life.
Your dad would be so proud.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Thanks, team.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Guy.
me.
We love you.
I love you so much.
Love you too.
Yeah. Should we
Go
kiss?
On air kiss.
The content discussed in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If any of the topics we've covered today feel overwhelming, we recommend seeking individual support. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or 13 Yarn on 13 92 76.